Hello, Eric Larson here with another solid modeling video. This one is about the sweep function. First, we have to go through the formalities. Fusion is a trademark of Autodesk Incorporated. It's a wonderful, powerful product, and again, I repeat that I like it, and it's certainly worth studying. It's a path to being able to get what you want out of your 3D printer. Okay, this is our fourth video in the series. In the first two, we focused on the extrude and revolve functions. Third video, we looked at loft, and in this video, we're going to look at sweep, which is a little bit more complicated, but it's a little more powerful as well. Okay, sweep requires two things: a complete closed two-dimensional profile, and a path to sweep the profile along to create the solid. Now the path can be in 2 or 3 dimensions, but we'll start with the simplest case, which is a 2-dimensional path. So we start with the sketch in the X in the YZ plane to define the profile, and we'll have a simple rectangular profile with edges 50 millimeters. So let's pop out of our slideshow at this point and pop into Fusion. And now at this point, you recognize our familiar 50 millimeter by 50 millimeter profile. If we go into the XY plane, select it, and say that we will create a sketch, we can now create a very simple path, which will be a simple line. We hit enter, finish the sketch. And now when we're back in our view, we can see that we've got our closed profile and we have our path. So if we say create sweep, the profile has been selected. It's asking what is our path. So if we select this one and say okay, here's our favorite 50 by 50 by 50 cube. Now at this point you're probably completely sick of the 50 cube. But I'm trying to create the simplest possible example that I can think of to make it easy to grasp this function of sweeping. So if we go back to our slides and say view the slideshow, yeah, I'm sure you're saying that the 50 cube is boring. So we'll go to some more complex examples. And we'll go through about 5 or 6 different things. The first one is going to be a round profile with an L-shaped path. So, back to Fusion, and we'll create a new design. In this case, we will select the YZ plane. We will create a sketch. And it will be a simple 20 millimeter diameter circle. There's our sketch. Okay, back to the home. Now if we select the XZ plane, we can create a sketch, which is our path. We'll create the simplest path that I can think of, which will be a very simple L shape. Hit enter, finish the sketch. There is our path. Now I can see that we want to okay, let's name this sketch to be our profile. We will name this one to be our path. Okay. Now I want to edit the path again because I can kind of tell that I didn't really get exactly what I wanted there. I want to make this a little bit larger. Okay. There. Okay, finish the sketch. back to our home. Now, if we select the profile selected, pull down Create, Sweep. Here's our profile selected. Select this path. There we go. Now you can see we've got a interesting, L-shaped circular object. Now we can make that into something a little bit nicer. If we edit the path and we say that we want to fillet the corner, that is, make it round, we select here. There we go. And I'm going to say 15 instead of 10. I want it rounder. Okay, finish the sketch. Now if we go back to our timeline, edit the feature, we deselect the path and then select again, select the whole thing. There we go. Now you can see that we have a more useful kind of rounded L-shaped thing. But this is not probably really the most useful thing I can think of. What we'd probably really like to have is something which is a pipe. And so if we made this one, if we hit Enter, hit D for dimension, we'll make this one 16. There we go. Finish the sketch. Now if we go back to edit our feature, and we want to select the outer part of the profile. Nope, not that part. We want that part. Oh, here. Let's turn off. Let's turn off the. We need to. I want to turn off the view of the body and turn on the view of the profile, and I want to make sure that I'm selecting the part that will give us a pipe. Now if we edit again, edit the feature, we've got there. That gives us what we want. Now we turn our body back on. You can see that we've got an L-shaped pipe. Now that's pretty useful. That's a pretty useful thing in general. But what we might really want is to have a little bit more complicated path. So let's edit our path again and extend it. There we go. And we'll round this corner. We'll round this corner here. And we'll give this one 10. Okay, finish the sketch. And now if we edit our feature again and clear the path and then select it, there we go. And you can see that we now have a more useful, more interesting object here. That it's a zigzag pipe. Now, if you were to actually print this object on a 3D printer, what you would find is that the support material, which goes inside and keeps the filament from collapsing, would be very difficult to get out of the middle of the object, especially if this center part of the profile was longer. So that leads us to say that maybe what our profile really wants to be, instead of a pipe, maybe we'd like to have a trough. So we'll draw a line down the middle of it, hit Enter, finish the sketch, turn off the view of the body. We'll come around here to this direction, hit Escape, and select the bottom part of the profile only. Now if we edit the feature, if we clear the profile and move this over and select the bottom part, there you go. And what you see, if we turn our view of the body back on, is that we've created a trough which goes through a zigzag path. We can turn off the sketches to make it a little better, and if we view it kind of in orbit, we can see that this is a useful trough function. Now, there's another way to create a path, which allows us to create even more interesting shaped paths. So let's create a new design, and we will sketch again on the we will sketch on the XZ plane. And in this case, what we will do is we will use the spline function. So if we click on spline to draw in our 2D model, if we click on our first point, second point, third point, fourth point, fifth point, now you can probably recognize that this is sinusoidal, but it doesn't have to be perfectly sinusoidal. We can make it kind of variable. Okay, we hit enter, finish the sketch, and now we're done. So we go back to the home function. We see that we're sketched on the XZ plane. Now if we go to YZ plane, select it, create a sketch. We can create our trough fairly easily. Hit enter. I'm going to press D for dimension. Okay, I want this one to be, let's say we'll make this one 12, and we'll make this one, we'll make this one 16. Okay, so now we can finish our sketch, and now what we see is that we are somewhat set up to run our trough along our zigzag curving path. So we'll come in, we'll arrow in, try and select the bottom part of the profile, pull down, create, sweep. Okay, we've got our profile selected. What we want to do is select the path, and there we go. If we move this dialog box out of the way, what we see is that we got something that doesn't quite look like what we want. We got these kind of weird gaps here. Now I think the fix for that is to change the orientation from perpendicular to parallel. And there you go. You can see that created our trough, which is sweeping along in a very interesting, curvaceous way. If we go back to the home view, you can see that this is curving along it's a three-dimensional object, but its curvature is only in 2 dimensions. So if we look at it from the front, we'll see that it is in fact only curving in 2 dimensions. Now, if we were to try to run water through this trough, it would just kind of pull up. If we put a marble in one end, it would not roll down to the far end in the way that we might want. So there's a way to fix that. So what we will do is edit our sketch, which is our spline. And what we're going to do is we're going to edit these points to move them in 3-dimensional space. So the first thing to do is to look at our sketch palette and come to the bottom and make sure that the 3D sketch checkbox is turned on, that this box is checked. All right, and the first thing that we're going to do is we'll select our first point, do a right click, and say that we want to move. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the Z distance. we're going to say minus 10. Say OK. Then we'll go to our second point. Same deal, repeat move copy. Z distance will be minus 20. Okay, that's cool. We'll go to our third point. Repeat the move copy. Z distance is minus 30. Okay, and you can see that each of these points is coming down an additional 10. So we're probably, what are we at, minus 40 by now. So just to make it a little more interesting, I'm going to make this one also at minus 40, so that just to make our track shape a little more interesting. And we'll make this one minus 50. Okay, minus 50. This one will be minus 60. And this one will be minus, oh, let's make this one minus 70. Okay, minus 70. Okay. Now, if we finish the sketch, now we see that our object is now actually a three-dimensional downward sloping trough. If we look at it from the front, you can see that it's sloping from top to bottom. And if we go back to our home here and look at turn on our axes here, X, Y, and Z. I want to turn on X, Y, and Z axes. So what we have done is we drew our spline in the XZ plane, and then we edited the points to drop them in the Y axis. Now you might find that that's a little bit confusing, because when we were actually editing the points, we were changing them in the Z axis, but the ultimate result is a change in the Y axis of these points. We didn't change anything about the Z or the X coordinates. We simply adjusted them so that it comes down. Now that's just simply the way the software works. It's maybe a little bit confusing, but you know, when you're editing this sketch, you are actually kind of looking at something in an XY plane, and in a Z. If you're changing it in Z, you're changing it, you know, kind of the way you're looking at it. You're pushing the points down in the Z axis. So it's just something that you kind of have to experiment around a little bit and get used to it. So what we've seen is how to move things around using the sweep function. So let's pop back to our slides. And what we've seen is we went through these examples of the different sweep functions. We made a round profile on a simple L-shaped path. Then we rounded off the corners. We made kind of a zigzag path. Then we created a pipe, and then we transformed the pipe into a trough by editing the profile sketch. Then we used the spline curve to create the path, and then we edited the spline points to move the points in a three-dimensional space. Now, you may find that sweep is quite challenging, and I've been kind of struggling with it myself. And if you find that your sweep is not working, or you're getting error messages from the software saying that it can't create the sweep, here's some things that you can do to try and debug it. So the first thing is make sure that your path is truly continuous, and get rid of any gaps in the path. And similarly, ensure that you have a truly closed profile. You may need to zoom in and look at the points very carefully that define your profile. It might not be a closed profile. And you can use the coincident constraint to move the points around and say, hey, the 2 points are coincident, and therefore will create a continuous path or a closed profile. Also, you want to try and make sure that your path is reasonably smooth. You don't want to have any real jagged zigzags or any corners that are too tight. And similarly, make sure that your path is tangent to your profile. Make it easy for Fusion to know where to start and end. Now, I will pop back into Fusion to kind of show you what that really means. And if you look at this example again, where our profile is, the profile sketch is here, and it's kind of small, but it is directly intersecting. It directly intersects the path, and the path is perpendicular to the profile sketch at the point that it starts. Now, if our path was somewhere way out over here, or if it was going off in some direction that doesn't really make sense, then you're not going to get what you want if you're trying to create the sweep. So that's what sweep is all about. And what we can do to recap is say that sweep is a way to create the most interesting solid shapes. And it can be more complicated than some of the other ways, such as extrude, revolve, and loft. You need two things for a sweep. One is a closed profile, and then you need a continuous path. And you also might not get exactly what you want on your first try. So you're going to have to fiddle around with this a little bit, or you may have to look at some online help or do some fairly sophisticated head scratching. In any case, good luck. I hope this is helpful. Hope you've enjoyed the videos so far. I'll try and figure out what the next video should be, but it's not totally obvious to me immediately what the next one is going to be. Anyway, this is video 4, and Eric Larson signing off from Silicon Valley. Hope you liked it.